Childhood is a period of time where we're experiencing immense growth, we're discovering new things, we're learning new things, and we're maturing in many ways in terms of our psychological functioning. In the next section of the reading, you'll learn more about the emotional, social, and cognitive changes that take place in the child. Now, the reading will start off with a discussion of temperament. Temperament is a term in psychology that's used to sort of describe the child's disposition of towards behavior, their characteristic style of behaving. Now, I'll give you an example. Some of you may have kids, you may work with kids, and it's pretty common to hear parents or people that work with young children to say, oh, that child's really easy to work with, they're really outgoing and social. Some children can be more difficult, they can be more irritable, they can have more of a tendency towards negative moods. Okay, some individuals might be more shy, okay, more introverted, and some are more extroverted. This is what we call temperament. It is the child or any person, it doesn't have to be a child as we all have temperament, but it's your characteristic style or disposition towards behavior. Now, a lot of research in developmental psychology has examined temperament, particularly in young children. And one of the biggest studies that was ever conducted was the New York longitudinal study. This was conducted in the 90s. And what a longitudinal study is, it means that they follow people for a long period of time. So in this case, they studied young children and they measured and assessed their temperament or their disposition towards behavior. And they followed up with them years later to see if different types of temperament predicted various outcomes. And basically what this study showed us was that there were basically three main classes of temperament that one could be grouped in. The first category of temperament is what's known as the easy children. These children tend to be playful, they tend to have a positive response to social situations. They like to interact with new experiences and new stimuli in the environment. And they're just pretty easy to work with. They get along with others. Now, these children later in life were just better adjusted. They tended to have more positive psychological outcomes, and they tended to do very well. This was a protective temperament, being an easy child. It was socially useful. It predicted success in different areas. Another branch of temperament that one could be classified into is difficult temperament. Okay, these children reacted negatively to new situations. They tended to be irritable. They had trouble establishing regular sleeping schedules and eating schedules. And this difficult temperament was associated with an increased chance for mental health problems later in life and overall just poorer adjustment. Now, the third main category of temperament were the slow to warm up children. These children, as the name implies, took a little bit of time to warm up to a social situation. They tended to be inhibited and shy at first, but after a while, they would become more involved. They tended to have lower activity levels at first, and they just require more time to adjust to new situations and stimuli in the environment. Now, this group later on had a higher chance of just experiencing anxiety and being a little bit anxious. So that was one predictive quality associated with the slow to warm up children. They were at more risk to experience anxiety later in life. It is important to realize that in this New York longitudinal study, about 35% of the children were a mix between those categories. So not everybody fit neatly into easy, difficult, or slow to warm up temperament. Some children were sort of a cross or a mix between one or two categories. So this is just to kind of provide an overview. Temperament is a huge area of study in developmental psychology. We know that it's likely a mix of nature and nurture that contributes towards one's temperament. And researchers are still trying to understand to what extent can temperament be altered or changed, if at all. So in the reading that follows, you'll learn more about temperament and this longitudinal study that was very popular when it first came out. And you'll also go on to read about attachment how do young children form attachment bonds to caregivers in the environment. You'll read about research from animals that are not humans. You'll read about research on human infants. And you'll also read a little bit about child rearing and parenting practices and how those efforts can impact development during childhood. So go ahead and continue with the reading. I've interspersed various videos when relevant. And by the end of this section, you should be a little bit more knowledgeable about childhood development.